Okay, in this video, I'm going to deal with the FOIL method. And in dealing with the FOIL method, we're going to first start with the basics. X minus 1, x plus 1. What does FOIL mean? Well, F means first, and first terms in each parentheses have x, so we multiply those together. Outer, we have that which is on the outer side, which is x and 1. We multiply, we're almost multiplying together at this step, so x times 1 is x. I here stands for inner. What are the inner terms? We have negative 1 and x, again multiplying those together, so inner terms are negative x. And finally our last terms are negative 1 plus 1, which is minus 1. Now we make this a big addition problem, and we get x squared plus x plus minus x, same thing as minus x, plus minus 1, which is minus 1. And these two x's here, these cancel out, giving us 0. So we end up getting x squared minus 1. Now, in the blog post, I was talking about the reverse, where we start over here and then we try to, as I say, build a house using parentheses. So what's the first step? Well, the first step is we notice that here we have the 2, which it's called a coefficient. You don't need to know that, but we know that we're going to have an x and x in the first position. Because again, x times x is x squared. And really for the GRE, this is about all you have to know. Don't worry about x to the third, x to the fourth. Probably not going to be important. So we have x squared here, minus 1. The next step, once you put the x's there, is to say what two numbers multiplied by each other give us negative 1. And in this case, we have positive 1 and negative 1. So that's easy because I basically solved this. But let's come up with an entirely different equation and see if we can reverse FOIL. And let's have x squared minus 7x plus 12. A little bit more difficult. And I should actually write that this is always equal to 0. So this is important. Always equal to 0. Otherwise, if you had a 5 over here, then you'd have to subtract the 5 and you would get x squared minus 7x plus 7, which is something totally different. So again, this is our equation. We want to use the parentheses, or we want to work backwards. So to reverse FOIL, as I like to call it, we make the parentheses, put the x in the first place. We don't worry about this. We move to the last part and we say, what two numbers multiplied give us positive 12? So you can actually list those out. You can say, well, 1 and 12, 6 and 2, and 3 and 4. And essentially we're writing the factors. Now that we've written these factors, which ones of these factors, when you add them together, give you the middle term, which is negative 7? So let's add these together. Now you're going to say, wait a second, none of these give me negative 7. But what do you notice? You notice that there's a 7 down here. What's the twist? The twist is you could also have negative numbers. When you multiply negative numbers, you always get a positive. But in this case, when you add them, you get a negative. So we have negative 3 and negative 4, and that gives us negative 7. And so we know that negative 3 is to go over here, or negative 3 could go over there, it doesn't matter. And negative 4 goes here. So as long as they're in separate parentheses, we get x minus 3, x minus 4, and this is equal to 0. So when you become really good at this, and it definitely just takes a little bit of practice, the final thing is solving for the roots of the equation. And basically the roots are what two values of x way up here give you when you plug in x, 0. And to solve that, you use the reverse FOIL method. Then you take each one of these individually and you set it equal to 0. And that shouldn't come as too much of a surprise because x minus 3 times some number gives you 0. So you can kind of eliminate this just for a moment, and you can say, well, if I make this number here equal to 0, then it doesn't matter what this number is because it's going to equal 0, because 0 times anything is 0. So let's assume x minus 3 equals 0. If we solve for x, we get x equals 3. So that is one of the values that if you plug in here, you end up getting 0. The other value, we're going to write these in parentheses. That's just standard notation for the roots. So you take x minus 4. We're going to solve it down here. And equal to 0. Add 4 to both sides, you get x equals 4. Those are our two solutions. Again, roots of the equation simply mean, and again, it's not a coordinate point, but it's just the way we arrange the two answers, that when we plug them back here, give us 0. And oftentimes, that's what the question will ask for. Sometimes they'll ask you to add the roots, so you just say 3 plus 4. But as long as you can do this, you know how to FOIL and reverse FOIL, you know what the roots are. As long as you do what the question's asking, you should be fine.